1,000 kilometers away, in the Tuamotu island chain. How could shells from that far away have made it here?
We think it's quite possible that the larger pieces of pearl shell that we find here in the site actually are coming from the Tuamotus and may have been exchanged between archipelagos.
It's a good start, but he can't prove the inter-island trade. And with the ancient vessels long gone, evidence is hard to come by.
Because the wooden canoes that Polynesians used are not preserved in the archaeological record, then we have to look for other evidence if we want to study inter-island exchange and voyaging.
As the dig continues, another find takes them one step closer. A kind of ancient blade, a cutting tool known as an adze. It was the most important tool in ancient Polynesia.
We're especially interested in the stone adzes. This is an incredible one. Adzes were the basic woodworking tools for Polynesians. It's unusual to find one that is so large. This weighs at least 10 pounds.
Rowlett has been finding something unexpected about these adzes.
We found that in the deepest deposits of this site, more than half of the adzes are made of stone that was brought to Tahawata.
The stone used to make these tools does not exist on this island. Like the fishhook, it must have come from somewhere else. And in this case, they have an idea where. If they can prove it, it'll be solid evidence of long-distance trade voyages. Rowlett has enlisted volcanologist Dr. John Sinton to join his search.
Our goal was to try to find the actual quarry where the rocks were being produced.
Others before them have attempted to locate the quarry, but failed. Rowlett and Sinton charter a helicopter for the distant island of Aao. Remote, uninhabited, Aao is hundreds of kilometers from Rowlett's dig site. But they believe the stone found here might be a match for their adzes. On a bright morning, the helicopter pilot drops them off on the distant island.
We jumped out of the helicopter. He took off and told us he would be back in 5 days.
Rowlett and Sinton head deep into the wild tangle forest of Aao. They have food and water for just 5 days. Aao is known as an island of ill fortune, inhabited by the spirits of the ancient people. After 4 days of hunting, they've got nothing, and they're exhausted.
Searching, running up and down the ridges across the plateau, searching everywhere for the quarry. No drinking water, no water to wash with. We were absolutely dirty and stinking by that time.
For 3 days, they'd had no luck at all.
The day before we were supposed to be picked up by the helicopter, we were bushwhacking across a small ravine, and that's where we found the workshops for chipping the adzes.
This may be the breakthrough they've been looking for, the stone source for the ancient tools.
When we started to dig through the piles of flake, we realized there was nothing but stone debitage from hundreds of years of chipping away to manufacture these adzes.
They look like the right kind of stone fragments, but they have to prove it's a match. Rowlett and Sinton take samples back to the lab to test their theory.
This rock comes from the island of Aao in the Marquesas. We recognize this rock as what archaeologists call core, that is the primary source rock from which adzes could be fabricated.
Dr. Sinton compares the source rock brought back from Aao with Rowlett's adzes. He needs to heat the rock into a molten form to analyze its chemical composition.
Chemical composition is like the fingerprint of the sample. When people find artifacts elsewhere in the world, if they have this identical chemical composition, most likely the sample really did come from Aao.
The liquefied rock is pressed into glass discs that will allow Sinton to analyze their chemistry. The results of the study are striking.
The raw material at the quarry is identical in chemistry to these artifacts that are found all over the island. These two are, in fact, an exact match.
It's a solid link between two distant islands.
We found the quarry. They had established a major adze manufacturing complex on Aotearoa and were exporting the adzes to Tahiti, the Tuamotus, and Mangareva.
With the same AO adzes turning up from the Marquesas to Tahiti is evidence of a regular trade route covering hundreds of thousands of kilometers, much further than anyone imagined. This discovery from Dr. Rowlett and his colleagues is transforming the study of ancient Polynesia.
This was a revelation because it started to show that there were voyaging spheres that linked the Marquesas and other islands in central Polynesia, what we refer to now as this East Polynesian homeland.
The adzes are hard evidence of two-way, intentional long-distance voyaging.
This is a radically different idea or view of Polynesian societies, because instead of looking at them as being isolated, we now see a lot of interaction and communication.
Dr. Rowlett's dramatic discoveries suggest prehistoric Polynesian societies were more sophisticated than earlier experts thought. Now, the crucial question is, did they travel all the way to Easter Island? And what truth lies behind the story of Hotu Matua and the lost continent of Hiva? On Easter Island, the elders are positive their forefathers came from an ancient homeland called Hiva. To them, the facts are clear. Hiva is described as a land of green and jagged cliffs, ruled by tattooed warriors and fierce clans. Conflicts erupt, and rival clans go to war. Chief Hotu Matua prepares his men for battle. They are fighting for control of the island, fighting for a homeland. Chief Hotu Matua and his men lose a decisive battle. Defeated, they must flee. Hotu Matua must find a new home for his people. The high priest dreams of a faraway island to the east, in the direction of the rising sun. Hotu Matua knows they must leave the island before more of his men are killed. He commands scouts to search for the island in the priest's dream. That's the Easter Islanders' story. But could ancient Polynesians from the Marquesas region have traveled so far? Thousands of kilometers across the ocean. Did they even have the right vessels? That's the huge question boat restoration expert Bono Louis is wrestling with.
On a conçu cette pirogue-là, on a fait des recherches. C'est une pirogue de guerre.
With few written records of their maritime past, Louis is working from knowledge passed down orally through the centuries to rebuild a traditional wooden canoe.
Et le modèle, d'après l'histoire, on dit le shape a été pris sur le coco. Parce qu'elle a un modèle demi-arrondi là, en dessous et elle a la forme plate.
The canoe is made from a special kind of tree found here. Perfect material for long-distance travel.
D'après l'histoire, les anciens, ils prennent plutôt le bois c'est un bois qui est léger et résistant à la mer.
Bono Louis grew up here, over 3,000 kilometers from Easter Island. But remarkably, he has heard the very same stories as those islanders. Stories of a defeated tribe that set off on an epic journey.
D'après l'histoire, avant ici, certains clans qui est obligé de partir parce qu'il y a la mort derrière. Il n'y a pas d'autre possibilité de s'enfuir avec des pirogues pour partir. Et ça leur donne du courage pour découvrir les îles, les autres îles où on peut habiter.
They load up in preparation. The final piece of cargo, a sacred stone from Hiva, on the voyage to their new homeland. And so Hotu Matua and his people begin an epic journey. A voyage that could take them across thousands of kilometers of open ocean. They will battle stormy weather, rough seas, and blazing hot sun as they venture into the unknown. The canoe will be their home for many weeks, but with no land en route, food and fresh water will be scarce.
S'il n'y a pas assez de nourriture, donc il y a ce don. Et s'il n'y a pas de pluie, il y a danger.
All they have are a few coconuts and whatever fish they can catch.
Ils pêchent souvent des requins. Comme c'est un poisson qui est très dangereux.
Danger is all around, and the distant hope of a homeland far off on the horizon. This is the islander's story. For Bono Louis, one key fact is about to check out. Setting sail, he and his team soon find out that these ancient-style canoes really are seaworthy. Bono Louis also knows one more crucial piece of information, that the island he's sailing from goes by the ancient name of Hiva Ur. In fact, according to an ancient map, a 300-year-old document from a Tahitan high priest, many of the islands in this region originally went by the name of Hiva, the name from the Easter Islanders' stories. It's the present-day location of the Marquesas, a remarkable link to the legend. After centuries, could they have found the mythical missing continent? It's clear that the ancient Polynesians sailed the South Seas, but the Pacific Ocean covers 1/3 of the Earth's surface. Could they really have undertaken long-distance journeys, like the amazing voyage to Easter Island?
Many historians and scientists assumed that Polynesians crossed the ocean largely by accident, being blown off course.
For a long time, the ancient Polynesians were considered too primitive to intentionally voyage to distant locations. But one clue shows that they may well have. It's a kind of ocean map known as a stick chart. Thin pieces of coconut fronds are tied together to represent ocean currents. Small shells attached to the frame show the location of land. It's a chart of islands visited, all part of the evidence that led Barry Rowlett to believe the ancient Polynesians traveled far across the Pacific, with a plan to colonize the islands they found.
Our new theory is that the discovery and settlement of Polynesia was a systematic and intentional process and not at all accidental.
Previously, experts believed this long-distance voyage across the Pacific would have been impossible for two main reasons. Firstly, the wind.